Welcome back to my channel. My name is LaShawn and this is Lush Uncut. So Kamala Harris had a rally last night in Atlanta. It was quite the spectacle. So for today's video, I thought it would be fun for us to look at some of the highlights from her rally and go over some of the lies that were told and some of her rather what I think are embarrassing moments. So the rally kicked off with a performance from rapper Megan the Stallion. Videos of Megan's performance has been shared online a lot because people are obviously highlighting the ridiculousness of a presidential nominee having a rap artist and someone that's particularly known for twerking at a political rally. So here's a quick clip of Megan's performance. So I've been seeing a lot of chatter online, and a lot of it is coming from Black people that are understandably upset at the fact that Kamala chose to have Meg do a performance at her rally. But honestly, at this point, I am not mad at the politicians. You know, Democrats have been doing this for quite some time where they choose celebrities, you know, sports figures and rappers or just artists in general to represent the Black community when they are campaigning for a political office. They've been doing this for a long time and they haven't really had much opposition about it except for, you know, people that are showing outrage online. The real outrage has to be shown in the ballot box when you vote differently, because if they don't see actual pushback in the amount of votes that they're getting, then they're just gonna keep doing it. Anyway, there were the performance from Quavo and Megan, and then Kamala Harris took the stage. Again, this was in Atlanta. Atlanta has a very high Black population, and the crowd had a pretty high amount of Black people there also. So, of course, Kamala had to put on her Black scent. Let's take a look at that.
Georgia, it is so good to be back, and I am very clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024. Yes, we will. So let's get right down. So I'm gonna get into some business now.
We're going to do it again in 2024. Honestly speaking, that irritated me more than her having Megan the Stallion and Quavo perform, because you can argue that hip hop and rap music, even though a majority of the artists are Black, it's very much an American thing. And there's a lot of people who are not Black that enjoy Megan the Stallion's music, I am sure. So you can make that argument like, yeah, she's appealing to just voters in general, even though it's pretty clear that it's for Black voters. But this Black scent that Democrats tend to put on when they are in front of Black audiences, it's such an insult. And the crazy part about it is that that's not Kamala's, like, that's not her thing, okay? The only evidence of her having any type of connection to the African American community was the time that she spent at Howard. And there's a part of me that feels like she did that purposely, you know, with her political ambitions in mind, you know, in her early college years, and knowing that as a woman of color, that it would benefit her in the long run to have some type of connection to the Black community politically. Or maybe she was just, you know, in a search for some type of identity, because she spent her high school years in Canada, okay? Her father is Jamaican and her mother is Indian. Like, even me as a Black immigrant, I am very much aware that there are certain qualities or experiences that I cannot identify with, you know, that come from being African American. There's a lot of things that I always say I missed out on because I was raised in a West Indian household, and it's very different, and I'm okay with acknowledging that. I don't put on a Black scent when I'm around my, like, African American people. I speak how I'm speaking to you right now. It's just, It's just so funny and it's so sad. But again, we cannot get mad at Democrats for doing this. We have to ask and demand more. And they can be outraged online, but until there's outrage in the ballot box, nothing is going to change. Okay, especially from someone as disingenuous as Kamala Harris. Moving on, she decided to address her record on immigration because if you've been paying attention, one of the biggest critiques of Kamala Harris was her time spent as the border czar during her time in the Biden administration. She knows that that is going to be a very difficult obstacle to overcome in this year's election, being that she was there for Joe Biden's entire presidency and watched and stood by as millions of migrants crossed over the southern border. This is what she had to say about immigration, what she plans on doing, and so on and so forth.
Our administration worked on the most significant border security bill in decades. Some of the most conservative Republicans in Washington, D.C. supported the bill. Even the Border Patrol endorsed it. It was all set to pass. But at the last minute, Trump directed his allies in the Senate to vote it down. Right. He tanked the bipartisan deal because he thought it would help him win an election. Which goes to show Donald Trump does not care about border security. He only cares about himself.
That's a lie. So what happened with that bipartisan immigration bill was that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put together a bill that they knew Republicans were not going to sign because it had a ton of provisions that were very pro-illegal immigration. We are going to go over some of those provisions now because I am sick and tired of this woman just lying to people. So I found an article that Politico published in February of this year when the conversation around the bipartisan bill was happening. And they listed out some of the provisions of the bill that were problematic for Republicans. So we're going to go over just 3 of those provisions. So number 1, the part about shutting down the border, it reads, the bill would enforce the Department of Homeland Security to shutter the border if daily illegal crossings top 5,000 migrants on average or 8,500 in a single day. Unaccompanied minors from countries other than Mexico and Canada wouldn't count towards that total. The administration could only reopen the border if encounters of illegal crossings dropped to 75% of that number that initially triggered the closure. So they weren't really going to shut down the border. They were just going to limit the amount of people that was going to cross over the border. And if you do the math in terms of, the cap that they propose, it would still total about 500,000 people being able to legally cross over the border yearly. So that is BS.
When I am president, I will work to actually solve the problem. Is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the border security bill that Donald Trump killed, and I will sign it into law and show Donald Trump what real leadership looks like.
It's crazy. If she ends up in that White House, she has executive power to do something about the border. The same way Joe Biden did not have to go through Congress, she would not have to go through Congress. She can actually just simply do something because she has that power as the president, or she would have that power as president, but she's not going to do anything. She's going to put forth a bill the same way that she and Biden did while, during Biden's time in office. The bill is going to be stalled in the House and in the Senate, and she's going to continue to blame the problem of immigration on the Republicans. All the while, there are going to be millions of migrants that continue to cross over the southern border. So again, it's just lies. Okay, so this is a final clip that I'm going to show from this because I don't want this video to go on for too long. This is when she just lies, honestly speaking, like more and more lying.
Our plan will lower costs and save many middle-class families thousands of dollars a year. But Donald Trump has a different plan in mind, one that would raise prices on middle-class families. Just look at his Project 2025 agenda. I take it you've seen it. Project 2025 is a plan to weaken the middle class. Be clear. And Donald Trump intends to cut Social Security and Medicare. He intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations.
All right, enough. So obviously, at this point, the Project 2025 thing is just such a moot point. I don't know how many times it has to be said that Project 2025 is not Donald Trump's agenda. His agenda is Agenda 47. Kamala Harris, she knows that, but she doesn't care. Project 2025 has been deemed evil by the Democrat media, so they're going to say it over and over and over again. And there's a good amount of the American public that's stupid enough, I'm so sorry, to believe that and not do any type of research into what Project 2025 is, the proposals within it, what it means, like what it implies, and also, again, that it's not Trump's agenda. But she knows that and she doesn't care. What she said about Medicare and Social Security, Donald Trump has already said that he's not going to touch Medicare and Social Security, even though, in my opinion, it might be a good idea for us to look at the cost of Medicare and Social Security in ways that we can refine it to be more economically more economically reasonable. It is a very high tax burden on the American public, and we really do need to look at it because we can't just keep giving so many people money. It's gonna run out in like the next 10 or so years. But she doesn't care. And it's so funny how she said that Donald Trump's economic plans are going to weaken the middle class, when last time I checked, under Trump's presidency, the middle class was in a much better position versus under the Biden-Harris administration. And I find it so interesting how it seems as if the media and a lot of these Democrat activists are skipping over the last 3 years. They're acting as if Kamala Harris was never vice president. It's like she went from a prosecutor in California to the Senate and bam, she's magically running for office in 2024, as if 2020 to 2023, the last 3 years just didn't happen. And there are some voters that also have some type of amnesia and don't remember the last 3 years. It's the most absurd thing. Like, are we going to just act like this woman just was not? She's still in the White House. She hasn't left yet. But anyway, that is all. Overall, a lot of it was just expected lying from someone like Kamala Harris. And at this point, the responsibility is up to voters. I cannot blame a slimy politician like Kamala Harris for her lying. That is what she knows. That is what she does. And that is what she's going to do for the rest of her time in politics. It is up to the voters to make common sense decision when it comes to who they choose to cast their votes for.